Welcome to the Queens of the DMV podcast, Real Talk in Real Estate. My name is Ariel. I'm your co-host today, along with my other co-host, Cher Castillo.
Hey.
And Arnita Greene.
Hi.
Be sure to follow us on IG at Queens of the DMV and YouTube. Listen to our podcast weekly on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Look out for our new episode every Thursday via YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Today, we're going to be discussing credit. Dun, dun, dun. The real on credit and buying a house. We get these questions all the time, ladies.
Yes, we do.
We do.
We have so many people that come to us and, they are discouraged because they may have lower credit scores. And we know that it's just a matter of time and tweaking before you can get that credit score up. You just have to you just got to listen and do what you have to do. So we're going to talk about that today. What is the minimum credit score you guys are seeing out there as you work with different lenders and stuff in terms of buyers getting approved for different types of loans?
So I know a lot of agents say, you can get it with 580 credit scores.
I hate that. Please stop telling people that.
Thank you. Just stop it, agents. Yeah. So, I literally 640 or above is what you have. That 580, get that out.
580 is you miss one payment and you unqualified. Like you don't want to be like checking to make sure you actually can buy a house every week. Like 580 is maybe we're beyond 580 times. I will say, maybe pre-pandemic was 580, maybe for some lenders, but that's really a high risk file for them. And they'll tell you that your interest rate is going to be sky high. There's no benefit to really trying to buy a house with 580, but that was like pre-pandemic.
Right.
Post-pandemic, I am seeing, we're kind of coming out of it now, but I'm kind of seeing that you need a 640 plus.
Correct.
That's the lowest I've seen. I even see some lenders that are asking for 660s.
Yeah, I totally agree. I tell everybody, somebody came to me and said, well, someone said that you can have a five. No, it's just no need to do that. Why do you want to have a horrible a horrible interest rate for a 580? Not only that, I don't know any lenders that are doing a 580.
It's a high risk file, and they're actually sending that off to an investor, which doesn't normally turn out well.
Yeah. What do you think?
They'll say they can do them all day just to really keep you on the waiting list until your credit comes up. Just get your bleep together.
I was.
Let me say the word. Just put it together. Put it together. Have a budget. Let's do it right.
I so agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I think historically, like you said, you were being able to squeeze people into loans at a 580, and it was just so stressful because one wrong thing and they were out of there.
Right.
But even to 640, you're teetering the line right there. Yeah. It's like better to be maybe at least at a 650, 660. That way, if something happens along the course of the way, you don't get bumped under the 640 credit score.
Correct.
But, a lot of buyers feel like, the interest rates are so low right now. I'm just going to take the chance and get the higher interest rate and squeeze myself into a loan, because even a higher interest rate right now is not that high compared to what it was years ago.
All right.
You may be getting a 4%, but 5 years ago, 4% was a good interest rate.
True.
Why not get the benefit of what you're entitled to right now?
But what if you're not? But what if right now you need a house?
You're gonna be waiting anyway.
Yeah, I honestly would tell them to get the scores up. Just hold off. Just like we tell them, honestly, because we're telling them now, you got to have money. So, so you have to wait and have your money. To me, I need you to have money saved and for you to have good credit, because nobody's paying your closing costs. So I think both.
So what happens when you guys get buyers that have like a 450 credit score? Where do you start with that type of buyer?
I'm sure you'll do this.
Because 400, like, why? We are gonna start with a plan. We're gonna start with a plan.
You have to have
a plan. Talk
plan.
about how do we get to the goal that you're trying to get to, which is buy a house. And the first plan that we're gonna work on is how to strategize your finances so that we can pull your score up. Definitely. I will say, I wanted to do a guest on here, a credit, specialist, and some of those are kind of shaky. You get credit people who just want to take your money, and they say that things are going to get deleted, and they don't. So I work with lenders who actually have an in-house credit advisor or analyst, and I put them on a plan with that in-house lender who has that credit specialist, and they work with them on a monthly basis to bring their score up. And then in some cases, at the end, they can do a rapid rescore, which gives them a significant boost. But at least they're getting sound advice from the lender who is going to be lending them the money to purchase.
Correct.
So that's the route that I normally take. I do know enough about credit to sit down with them and break down things that they may need to do. But that's kind of the route that I like to do. And then I put them on a schedule and I check in with them and make sure that they're doing, following the plan.
But this is too why I tell them to check in at least a year in advance before they're ready to buy a house, so they can contact the lender. The lender can tell them everything that they need to do on the credit. I do have a credit repair person, but I also have the lender tell them exactly what they need to do. And if they do the steps that the lender tells them that they need to take, then soon enough, they will be buying. So, I always say, listen to the lender and, and always call us. You don't have to call us exactly when you're ready, but I say call when you're thinking about it, a year in advance to see what's on the credit. So we can get it cleared, so you can get the credit cleared up right away.
Planning ahead.
Yep.
So do you guys ever get those clients where they call and they're like, I don't understand why I can't get approved for a loan. I have no debt. I have, lots of income, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, yeah.
You need credit history to purchase a home. The mortgage company wants to see your story on how people are getting paid that you borrowed money from. So if you have no credit history, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much money you make or, your job history or any of that. It's all goes into a melting pot. Don't get me wrong. It all is taken into consideration, your debt to income ratio, but credit is a key piece to it. Yeah. I hear people always saying, oh, cash is king. Cash is king. Here in 2021, this is my opinion, credit is king.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
I have business credit. I have personal credit. I can buy whatever the hell I want to buy. You want to know why? Because credit. Yeah. You can get anything.
Yeah, it's true.
So, you want to build those things, and you want to, show some type of history of paying. And that's really what they're looking for.
Yeah, and at least a minimum of 2 years of credit history, as far as I understand it. If you have anything less than that, then they're like, wait a while before you can get pre-approved.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I just think that it's just like you said, Ariel, credit is king. And, cash is definitely always good to have. But when you have good credit, A1 credit, and it's crazy because growing up, they didn't talk about those things, growing up. Now, I think the young people, what are they, generation Gen Z? They have so much ahead of us that we have.
Well, they have YouTube. They can Google everything.
We have all these fake influencers.
See, well, now that we're even talking to them about, investing, and they just have so much ahead of us than we had. Right. So, them like Erin, now I'm teaching her credit. That this is credit is king. Always keep your credit good, in good standing with anything, to save your money, to have your credit in good repair all the time. So, I just wish that we were taught at a young age about how to always keep our credit intact. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I my credit early. Like now, I don't have those problems now, but when I was in college, the credit agencies and the banks were on the campus like, hey, you can sign up for this credit card.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take the credit card and go shopping. I didn't think about my future down the road when I was buying a house at 23 years old, fresh out of college.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my credit. It wasn't bad at the time because I kind of, I was in marketing school and going through business, and we learned about credit. So I was like, let me get my stuff together. But like growing up, like we didn't, no one taught us about credit. I feel like they should be teaching that in schools nowadays. Yeah. Like, it's just something that you don't talk about, especially, well, nowadays, yes, but when I was growing up, and I'm a millennial, so, credit, Yeah. It was just something that, was a mystery. And it's still a mystery.
The 1/3 rule, you guys are familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
What? The 1/3 rule with your credit. Oh, yeah. I didn't know about that until I got into real estate. I was like, what's that? The 1/3 rule. And, and the 1/3 rule is whatever you have your max available credit on a card, your balance should always be under the 1/3 of the max. So let's say you have a card that's the limit is $12,000. Your balance should be under $4,000 at all times, so it doesn't have a negative impact on your credit. Well, who knew that? Because when I was younger, I was riding out at the $11,999.
Right. First of all, I didn't even have that as a limit. Yeah. You have to, so it's a tricky combination because you have to show usage at the same time, but not max it out.
Yeah.
So that's how you come up with the 3rd rule, because you don't want to show that you're living off of your credit either.
Right. Definitely. Well, I've even adjusted to now, if I do use my credit card, I pay it off right away. So I'm there now, and I promise
before it hits the cycle.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I promise you, I was never like that. I always paid everything late. I just paid stuff when I remembered. Yeah, but being with my crazy husband who doesn't play about credit, I've definitely realized now that, it's nothing to be played with, because once you mess that up, it's hard to get it back together. You can get it back together. I'm not saying that, but it's a struggle.
But do you guys think that it's a it's a cultural thing as well? Because I feel like my white friends knew way more about credit than I did. I'm like, did their parents sit down and talk to them about credit? Because my mom never sat down and talked to me about credit. Like, what is different culturally? Because I feel like my friends of color and my white friends are very different when it comes to credit.
I say that I didn't get taught enough about it. Like my mom always said, don't mess your credit up, but she didn't go into detail.
Mm-hmm. Like, what does that look like? Messing up.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
Don't hit it. Don't hit your credit.
Yeah, that's always what she said. And she would say that to me because she had probably messed hers up and got it back together, but she never explained. So yeah, that could be a reason, Cher. It could be.
I feel like I'm going to go downstairs and talk to Cruz after this show about credit now. I'm like, this is exactly what it means. Because I probably do the same thing. Like, when you get older, you can't mess up your credit. You have to have really good credit. He's probably, in his mind, he's probably like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, so now you have to go into these. You're going to have to get a board and say,
explain it.
This is your money.
Look,
Right.
to be honest, it's actually a conversation starter in all aspects. Like, I have some friends that go on dates and they're like asking the guy, like, what's your credit score? Like,
Whoa.
literally.
What? Hold on. That's a first date conversation.
First date, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's also like you slide that in after your favorite color. Like, what's your favorite color? Okay, what's your credit score? Like, I don't want to be like in a relationship with somebody with that has bad financial decisions. Like,
oh my gosh. If someone asked me that question though, on a first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth date, you going back on another date with me.
What would you say, Cher? So you wouldn't go back on a date? He was like,
if somebody asked me what my credit score was,
before we get serious, I need to know what your credit score is.
Yeah, but if you said, okay, Cher, I'm really into you, you know, but I have good credit and I don't want to mess my credit up. You know, I just want to make sure that you're good.
Well, then you need to go find some woman. You need to go find some woman that's going to answer that question before date number 3,000. Okay.
It ain't me. We get married, and I still need to know.
It might be date 16, and he's like, I could really see myself with this lady.
And so if I tell him my credit score is a 540 or something terrible, he's gonna break up. He ain't breaking up with me. I already cooked for this man. Whatever.
Nah, we about to go to some credit classes.
Exactly.
I'm about to do a repair or something because we can't do this.
He's gonna say, Cher, I need you. I want you. But we're gonna have to go to some classes.
We're gonna have to fix this credit right. Wow, that's how the millennials are doing it.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't. Thank you, Alma, for staying with me. With bad credit in the beginning.
Listen, well, had it.
Well, that does go into the topic of how does getting married affect your credit? Because if you get married, now your credit does become a joint thing.
Yeah, that's why Ariel asked that question.
Hello, because I don't need stuff to get declined, or we can't get a house and then your name can't be on the deed or the loan and all it. No, we need to go with it.
Y'all know that happens a lot.
It does.
I'm okay with the loan being in his name and me being on the deed. I'm fine with that.
Right. But I mean, you don't want to be in a situation where you're excluded because your spouse's credit isn't right. Use ways around it, but why not just, get your bleep together? Be
on the same level.
Yeah.
But of course, that's not, it just doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't.
It doesn't.
And I'm not saying that it's okay, but they have to be okay with it,
Right.
Yeah. So what you think, Cher? What you think is Cher?
I can see you thinking.
I know when I can tell
it. No, I mean, I'm just thinking there's been times in my life I've had like close to an 820 credit score. And there's been times in my life that I've had a 500 credit score. It's gone up and down. And when you are a risk taker in business, it's bound to happen because you're going to win and you're going to lose sometimes. And when you win big, you lose big too. And I've lost big before. And that credit score has been way down. So I'm just thinking of all the men that I've dated. If they would have caught me at 500, it would have been a problem.
Yeah.
I will say that credit does take a toll based on certain events in your life.
Oh,
if you're going, from one job to the next, and there's a time frame where you're not working, or financial hardship. So I could totally understand. And some people just file bankruptcy, for fun.
Right.
They just file it, I don't want these bills anymore, and just file bankruptcy. I know people that actually do that. And
aren't you pretty much screwed for 7 years when you?
It depends. Is it a chapter 7? Is it a chapter 11 or 13? Those vary in.
Well, why don't you school us on that and how that affects our credit?
Well, I mean, I'm not a, bankruptcy lawyer or, all of that, but I come from a household where my mom would file that bankruptcy to keep her house. You know what I'm saying? I grew up like that. So, at the end of the day, I learned about bankruptcy through my mom. So I believe a Chapter 11 wipes away pretty much
Everything.
all of your debt. And you can add your mortgage in there too. And it saves you, money and time, but it does bring your score down quite a bit. But it gives a period of time for where the creditors can't come after you.
Right.
You have to wipe the debt away. But I think it keeps you from purchasing from 2 to 3 years. Now, the other one, the Chapter 13, is 7 years.
Yeah, you're paying on the debt in a Chapter 13. And I had this happen to me. I had a client who was in a Chapter 13. He was getting a house built, and it was towards the end of the Chapter 13. So he had to ask the trustee, could he buy the house? Thank God it worked out. But with the Chapter 13, I need people to realize that they have to ask the trustee in order to be able to buy another property before they buy it. So
sell the property. I actually just had a deal like that close last week where I was representing the buyer and the seller initially, and they were in a Chapter 13 situation, and we could, even though the contract was ratified and all of that, they had to have court, trustee approval for the actual sale, and then it has to have court approval, and so it took what should have taken 30 days, took 4 months to close.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they had to get a request for the sale and to buy.
Right.
Both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the Chapter 7 is the quickest
and shortest.
Yeah, I think it's the quickest. You get to keep pretty much everything, but you just don't have to pay the creditors.
Okay.
Why wouldn't everyone do that all the time?
I know.
My mom was a career Chapter 7 filer.
Let me go do some research on Chapter 7 real quick.
Yeah, and then that you guys were just talking about the 13. I think you have to have it's a max debt that you're allowed, and I think it's like 400 and some thousand up to $1 million.
Okay.
So
So one of the questions that we had from some followers were, how does having a lot of credit cards hurt your overall credit score? So not necessarily having a high balance, but just a lot of open lines.
It gotta be, I don't know, we probably need to have a lender on for this question. I'm thinking only because, you have too many. It depends on how the limit is on there. If all of them are under 30%, then you should be fine. But, I'm thinking maybe how many are we talking about here? How many credit cards do y'all need?
Talking about secured, unsecured cards?
I was thinking it was probably because of potential of debt. So let's say even though you have 10 cards and they have a maximum of $10,000 each, if you wanted to one day go out and charge 10 cards up, that's $100,000 in debt. So I thought it was the risk factor involved, with having that much potential debt, essentially.
Yeah.
But if you look on the flip side, I think it has to do with your income too. So if you have $100,000 worth of credit, cards, and you don't, your income doesn't meet that, it's also a risk, like you said, because you're looking at the total picture. Does this person make enough money to pay off this debt that they have or could have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And try to pay some of those off. You do not need 10 credit cards.
and two, it can also hurt you if you close old accounts.
Yeah.
If you had a card that's been open since the 90s and you say, oh, I have too many credit cards, and you go cut off the one that you had since the 90s, that can hurt you significantly.
Oh, yeah. You got one from the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword in that situation. If you have all of these cards, but then you start cutting them, basically, getting rid of them, that hurts you as well because you need that history.
Definitely.
So
I want to do this again. We talk about credit again, and then we have a lender and we have a credit repair person on.
But we need a legit credit repair person. There's so many people doing credit repair, but not really doing it. It bothers me.
I was really serious about that. I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to say the name, but okay.
Right. We're not going to say the Ponzi scheme. We need to really help our clients with credit.
So how does a low credit score affect your monthly mortgage payments? Like if you are approved for a loan, you got in at 580, now you have a 4% credit score, what does that mean for the buyer?
You have a higher payment.
Much higher. Yeah, much higher payment.
You could have had a much lower payment, I just think just going in, again, some people that doesn't matter to them, just like you said, Cher, some people just want a house.
Yeah.
So I get it. I totally understand. I know that has had to happen to us before COVID.
Yeah.
So we understand it, but because we want to educate our viewers and we want you to do it the right way, we would rather you have a higher credit score so you won't go into having a high mortgage payment, because you never know, life can happen. So, right. You have a high mortgage payment, something crazy happens and you can't afford the mortgage. So, that's why we're here to educate you on to not go with that 580 credit score. Some instances you have to do it. So we understand, but our job is to make sure that you are getting the best deal that you can all around, because we do have clients that call us later on and say, you did this, we did this, I should have did this.
And I'm really not a fan of just buying something, for the moment and then like, oh, you can just refinance in 2 years. Like,
that's not
no.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, because first of all, you're putting skin in the game at that moment to go for something. Why not be completely ready? What's the difference? If you let's say you were last year trying to buy a house and you waited and now you want to buy one this year, look at the difference. Look at the difference in what you could have gotten versus not waiting or waiting.
Well, yeah, but the difference is also it's way more competitive this year than it was last year. So
no, I'm talking about the people who are buying now that were in contention of buying last year and decided to wait or didn't wait.
Oh, okay. So you're saying the people who wanted to buy last year but didn't buy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay.
So
but they have better credit scores, you could have had lower inventory.
Right. It is. But there's always something that you're competing against. I would rather collect the inventory on my house. I mean, not the inventory. I'm sorry. The equity on my house and pay less than to wait, and then try to refinance. And you don't know what's going on when you're about to refinance. So you know what I'm saying?
This is the only reason why I say it's two things. I've plenty of my clients have refinanced 6 months after they bought the house. But I do have a couple of instances of when they don't do the smart thing and they can't refinance afterwards. Mm-hmm. They messed up the credit already moving into your home. I don't know how the hell you do that. And then
they bought all the furniture in the world.
Yeah. I just think if you're going to do a buy and refinance, you just have to be strategic.
And it's okay, but you have to be strategic about it. Go ahead, Cher. What?
I don't agree. Cap on, but go ahead.
I definitely don't agree. When I want something, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to get it right now. So if last year I had the opportunity to buy a property and my interest rate was 3.5%, and it was a property of my dreams, I'm going to get into that house. I'm not saying I'm going to get into it and not afford it. I'm going to get into it and still afford it. And then if the interest rate drops, then I'm going to refinance, and I'm not going to have a problem refinancing either, because now I have my dream property. Like, I don't know. I'm not the type of person. Yes, I want you to be in a better situation, the best situation that you can as my client, as my buyer. So I'm going to encourage that. However, I'm a 3.5% interest rate. Look, when I bought my first house, my interest rate was 11.75%. All right. And I had a 780 credit score. So it was just the time. I mean, it was 1999. So I've seen credit scores go from 11-12% down to 2%. Like 3.5% seems awesome to me.
Right.
It doesn't seem that bad.
Definitely.
So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know that I would tell my client, like, okay, yeah, this is a great house, but I would wait to get your credit score to whatever it needs to be just to save 1% of interest on a monthly basis. Especially
I don't
knowing
think that's what we're saying. We're saying saying the same thing. Go for what you want and go for your dream home.
We just
But let's make up a plan so that we can actually get there, especially if you're not qualified starting out or if you're out of contention starting out due to credit. So we're talking about going into something and you're not actually there.
And my thing is just educating them on just making sure if you're going to refinance, I'm all for it. But just make sure you keep the credit and everything together so you can do that later.
Absolutely.
I'm stuck.
You are. You up and stuck.
We can hear you, Arnita, but we only see a mad face right now.
I don't know what happened. Maybe that's time for us to, all right.
It's time to wrap it up. Well, what are some final nuggets that you could give our viewers and listeners as far as tips to ensure they're going down the right path and raising their credit scores or obtaining the right credit scores to purchase a house? And I'll start. I think, the very first thing to do is to actually pull your credit, because a lot of times people don't even start there. They wait until they're ready to buy a house. And then when they talk to the lender, that's the first time they pull their credit. I think you should pull your credit a year before you even buy a house to see what's on there. If it happens to be fantastic and nothing bad on there, then congratulations. 90% of the time, that's not true. There's stuff on there that you did not even imagine was on there. I guess these days it's a little different because everybody has like CreditWise and, like different credit apps that are alerting you if your credit score is going up and down. But that would be my first piece of advice. Pull your credit score way in advance so you know exactly how to plan for the future.
And that goes into my next tip. After you've pulled your credit, sit down with your mortgage lender and your agent and make a plan towards your purchase, especially if you're not quite where you need to be credit-wise. From there, you can do a game plan on how to get to that desired credit score to get into the property that you'd like to buy.
Exactly. And we lost Arnita, so no credit tip from Arnita today. But as always, thanks so much to listening to the Queens of the DMV. We are live live on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts every Thursday at 4 p.m. Tune in. As always, we love to hear from you. Follow us on social media. Send us your questions at Queens of the DMV. Until next time, this is Cher Castillo signing off with my co-host, Ariel.
And we're saying bye for Arnita today.
Yes, on her behalf and all technical difficulties today. Until next time, bye.
Bye-bye.